Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman, and welcome to our 240th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Bereishis, beginning of the book of Genesis. Just finished Simchas Torah, finished reading the Torah, danced with the Torah, danced along with the Torah. But we're starting now, beginning of the book of Genesis. It talks about creation, talks about Shabbos, Garden of Eden, the serpent, generations of man, Cain and Abel, whatever we have to speak about. So we're going to speak about a topic which we've spoken about before, but we're going to speak about it in a little bit different way. And that is, Torah tells me, by creation of the sixth day. And Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, God said, let us make man. Chapter 1 verse 26, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. They shall rule over the fish of the sea, birds of the sky, over the animal, the whole earth, and every creepy thing that creeps upon the earth. So Torah tells me, God created man. Right? God gave him a soul, as we understand. Right? He's going to breathe in the spirit of life. But the question is, what do you mean we? Let us make man. What is this royal we? Right? So simple explanation is, Rashi explains, others explain, who's God talking to? He's talking to the heavenly court. Showing his humility. Now, does God need to do that? No. But he's doing it to show humility. You know, maybe have a discussion. Is it a good thing man's going to be created? It's not a good thing. Regardless. Right? God's showing humility here. Now, there's another explanation. And the other explanation is that, yeah, God says in the plural. God says, let us make man. So a person can make a mistake. And a person can think, I'm going to the right path. Why? Because it sounds like there are two different people here. Two different creators. Now, does God want you to make that conclusion? No. Right? There's one God. But, as the Talmud tells us, a person wants to go in the wrong direction, God doesn't stop him. He wants to go in the right direction. God will help him. So, there's a question there. How do I know, in general? How do I know I'm going in the right direction? Because everyone believes, at least all religious people, they all believe they're going in the right direction. Right? They all think they're doing the right thing. Christians believe they're doing the right thing. You don't believe like them, you're frying out forever. Muslims, they think they have the right thing. You don't believe in them, you're frying out forever. So, obviously, Judaism doesn't say that. Right? You can still be a non-Jew. Eat shrimp, have a portion of the world to come. Or you can go through conversion. Right? Very good, you can go through conversion also. So now, if a person doesn't want to, they don't have to. But a person can be deceived. Person can be deceived. Now, we mentioned before, everybody thinks they themselves have the truth. Now, how do we know if you have the truth and you don't have the truth? Simply, we would say, there's a flaw in the book. If I find a flaw in the book, that is not true. So, there are many flaws in Christianity. There are many flaws in Islam. Many flaws in Hinduism, other religions. Judaism, there's no flaw. Right? So how do I know? Because if there would be a flaw, we wouldn't keep it. We wouldn't follow it. Because the Torah tells me, give one example. The Torah tells me that a kosher fish for a Jew to eat has scales and fins. It will always have scales and fins. If you ever find a fish that has scales and not fins, or vice versa, I know it's not true. But there's something nagging sometimes. Where a person will say, and this is the work of the evil inclination. A person will say, but I don't have all the proof. I don't have all the answers. Maybe something else is true. How could a person fall into a cult and other things? Many reasons. But they're going to think they have the truth. Until it's disproven. Until there's a way to show it's not true. But we could think what I have today, whatever religion a person follows, they think they're going to the right path. Now let's say, for the argument's sake, there is a God, He created the world, God of the Jewish people. So let's say someone, aspires to be a religious Jew, is a religious Jew. How do they know 100% what they're doing is right? How do we know if the path I'm on right now is true? Meaning that if I'm following God's law, how do I know I'm not being led by my evil inclination? Meaning, I'm keeping Torah, keeping mitzvahs. Maybe I'm convinced X, Y, or Z is the mitzvah, is a chesed, whatever. But it really isn't. Because the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Elijah Vilna more than 250 years ago, brings down that a person can have an evil inclination in the studio, in the synagogue. What do you mean? Person goes there to learn, goes there to pray. Where's the evil inclination? He's there for a purpose. Like I say, maybe he gets distracted. Maybe he's learning with someone. They're talking about things not related to learning. I can understand. Maybe they get into a discussion, side discussion about politics or other things. But we have to understand the Mishnah Pirkei Avos that says in Ethics of Our Fathers, two people sitting and learning, very good. One person says, wow, look at this mountain. Look at this beautiful mountain. Look at the cloud formation. Look at God's creation. They're praising God. Praising His creation in the middle of learning. You might say, okay, not the end of the world. The Mishnah Pirkei Avos says you're liable for a death penalty. You deserve to die. I can think of a lot worse things that a person could do in order to deserve the death penalty. I wouldn't think necessarily in the middle of learning, praising God's creation, person deserves death penalty. Now, what's the rationale behind it? One possible explanation is God could say, you're learning my Torah. You're learning my holy Torah. And you're speaking about my creation. There's a time and a place for everything. You want to praise my creation? Fine. Don't do it in the middle of learning. If you're learning, learn. There's a place and a time for everything. That means we got to be focused. Or let's say a person's learning, and there's an opportunity to do chesed. There's an opportunity to do chesed. The person stops learning, does the chesed. Now, how do I know that could possibly, very well be the work of the evil inclination? Very simple. The reason is because really you should be learning. Let someone else do the chesed. But I can chop the mitzvah. I can get the mitzvah right now. True. But the reality is, you're focused on other things. You're focused on learning. There are times I have to stop learning. Right? If there's, let's say, a dead body, no one can bury it. You have to bury him yourself, even if you stop learning. So there are things I have an obligation to stop learning. But if it's not an obligation, very well could be the work of the evil inclination. Now, this is a hard thing. Because some things may be very iffy, very much in the middle. So I'd have to ask myself the following question. Question is, am I better off doing what I'm doing right now? Is it going to draw me closer to God more or not? Now, if it's a resounding yes, okay, maybe. Right? If it's a resounding no, fine, I know where I stand. But a person can say, look at this chesed, I can really help somebody, this, that, okay, so stop learning for a little bit. So the question is that really what I should be doing right now? If really my focus is on learning, it's not life-threatening, it can wait. Famous story with Rabbi Margolius. He told his wife, he was a businessman, but he learned every day till 2 o'clock. He told his wife, no matter what happens, do not disturb my learning. So one day, 2 people come in, they want to see him, but a business proposition, his wife says, he can't be disturbed. So they didn't understand. They said he can make a ton of money in a short amount of time. He doesn't have to do that much. His wife said no. His wife said he can't be disturbed. And they were incredulous. Don't you think your husband would agree to make a ton of money in a short amount of time? She said that's what my husband said. So this guy's left. Husband stops learning. 2 o'clock. His wife tells him the story. Rabbi Margolius starts to sing and dance. And he said, I can't believe the Abisher God thinks my Torah learning is worth so much money. Now, some people would say, you got a chance to make a lot of money. An absorbent amount of money. All he needs 10, 15 minutes. Then he can go back to learning. Learning's not the same. That would be a distraction. But some people would think, why, maybe he can retire earlier. Then he can sit and learn undisturbed. Doesn't need money. That's the work of the evil inclination here. Because even though, in this case, he could have made a lot. Maybe he could have made enough in one day for a month. And our natural reaction would be, of course. What's the question? Let him do it. But that's not the Torah way. The Torah way is, if a person is learning for a fixed amount of time, whatever it is, that's the time he learns. Unless, God forbid, his house is on fire, or it's a major emergency, you don't leave the base measures. You don't leave the study hall. You sit there and learn. See, the problem is we could rationalize. And we could think, this is to my benefit. Let me get the mitzvah over here. Is there any greater mitzvah than learning Torah? No. That was easy. There's no greater mitzvah than learning Torah. If there's no greater mitzvah than learning Torah, what am I doing trying to do a chesed here? Again, if no one else can bury a person, you have to do it. Stop learning. Right? To make a bride and groom happy, you stop learning. Certain things I'm allowed to stop learning for. Most things, I gotta learn, that's it. Continue learning. Not gonna waste time over here. It's gonna distract me. So much money. Boggles the mind. Really? That's how far it goes? That's how far it goes. Even to say how great God's creation is, not what he wants at this time. You're there to learn. Learn! Some at a higher level, lower level. But the evil inclination can try and convince you, and wrap it up in a nice package to show how good it is and how permissible it is. And the reality is it's not. So if a person has a doubt, they're not sure if they should really undertake something or not, what do? They should ask somebody. Because sometimes the way we look at things is very skewed. Sometimes we may think it's the right thing, and this is what I should be doing. And the reality is it's not. It's a distraction. I shouldn't be going in that direction at this time. If a person stopped learning, they weren't going back to learning, okay, I understand. If they're learning, then they're learning. Right? Learning is one example. There are other things we could be convinced of doing that we also think are the right thing. People think, which is true, one of the 3 pillars the world stands on, chesed, we mentioned earlier. Acts of loving kindness. Person's out there day and night, helping others. He thinks he's doing the greatest mitzvah. Problem is, he's never home with his family. He doesn't do chesed at home. So a person would say, isn't that obvious? Okay, you want to do chesed outside the home? You got to be at home also. You got to make a balance. You can't be this guru in chesed and do nothing at home. It's a contradiction in terms. That's mitzvah baba vera. That's a mitzvah at the same time you're transgressing. Essentially. Because if you're doing it on a regular basis, your family doesn't matter to you. That's a problem. But a person can justify and say, look how many people I'm helping. Saving lives, this, that. Okay, I'm not home that much. My kids, my wife don't understand. I don't know. Maybe they won't. You got to put in time also there. Because you're a big guru outside the house. What about inside the house? Because the reality is, who are they supposed to look up to? The parents. That's where they're supposed to get inspiration from. Helps, rabbis, educators, other people, true. But the most important people they should have respect from, or they should be inspired by, the parents. Even though kids are in school most of the day, the real education's at home. That's where it is. So, I think sometimes the person gets distracted and they think, they think this is the right thing. The reality is they're going down the wrong path. Really, it's the work of the evil inclination. So again, what do we start out with? Question is, how do I know that? And again, if it's something obvious, it's obvious. If it's something not so obvious, you have to ask a third party. You have to ask a Rav, a Rebbetzin, someone who's objective, to be able to see the situation. Right? There are many times, let's say by parenting, there are many times a parent may think they're doing the right thing. And they think they're giving enough attention. And they go out of their way. And all these things. And the kid thinks otherwise. Kid says, it's not. You're never around. It's not fair. It's this, it's that. Now, in a person's own mind, they think, okay, this is what their kid says. But they're wrong. They don't see all the effort and whatever that the parent has made. And what's the answer? Even if the parent thinks they're right, even if they think they're 100% right, and they're doing the right thing, if their kid doesn't think so, depending what it is, then the parent has to be big enough. Parent has to be big enough to admit or change. Because if the child thinks the parent's not doing enough, and the parent thinks they are doing enough, the parent has to show. parent has to show they're doing more. Because that's what the child needs. Regardless of what the parent thinks. Well, I've seen this a number of times. We think we're doing enough. You never do enough. But we think we're doing enough. And the kid says no. Now again, you have to analyze the situation. Not all times the kid's going to be right. Maybe many times they won't be right. I'll give you a free parenting tip. If that's what the kid thinks and you've been bending over backwards, that means you have to put in more effort. They have to see more. You think you're doing everything? You're not stooping to their level. You're giving them what they need. Now, it might be hard to do that. And the parent might have to change the way they do things in order to show the child. But if the parent thinks, well, I'm doing everything I need to do, and the child's wrong, the child's not going to get the message. They're still going to think you're wrong. They're still going to think you didn't do enough. Ego gets involved, other things. I don't want to digress here. My point is that even if we think we do the right thing, the question is, why are we doing it? And is it really the right thing? We can get fooled. We can easily get fooled. You're going to say, come on, I analyzed this, that. You're right. Maybe it's true. Maybe 100% it's true. This is the right thing to do. We can't always be sure. Because sometimes we see it was the wrong thing to do. We justify it. We think it through. Different things. We can make mistakes. The evil inclination can entrap us. Can make us think a reality is not really a reality. And we can go down a slippery path thinking all the time we're doing the right thing and doing more damage, more damage, more damage. We have to have the ability to change. The ability to be flexible enough where we're not stuck. We're not stuck acting always the same way, always doing the same thing. Because people see through it. People see through the facade. And it could be only later you realize you made a major mistake. And then the evil inclination smiled and said, see? You thought all this time you're doing the right thing. I egged you on, and now you got egg all over your face. Not a good position to be in. Kaufman's law. When in doubt, you're not sure if this is the right way to go or not, ask. Ask a competent rabbinical authority, rebbes and whatever. Ask someone who's impartial. Someone who's impartial can set you on the right path. But a person always has to think about repercussions as well. Right? You don't want to live in the world of doubt. That's not good. But at the same time, we have to work hard to do things the way God wants, the right way, the purposeful way, and not get caught up in the evil inclination. So it depends on the circumstances, essentially. Right? I'm just giving out generalities. But it depends on the specific case. But is it possible that a person can really think they're going in the right way and they're not? Yes. Very, very possible. And the repercussions could be absolutely catastrophic. And that's something we have to be careful for. Right? And that's something, no matter what we do, we have to think it out. Sometimes we just react, what I'll call a knee-jerk reaction. But the reality is, we got to think things out. We have to have clarity of mind. And we live in a world of Hester B'tok Hester Panim, We're living in a world of hiddenness within hiddenness of God. So it's hard. So we have to be careful. And if we have doubts, even if we're doing the right thing, we should ask. We should ask and get clarity. And that will set us on the path to help us reach our potential, be the great people we can be. I want to remind everyone, I give a class every Tuesday, Duties of the Heart. We're in the gate of cheshbon nefesh, self-accounting. That's every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. I give a class on Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Israel Time, Book of Leviticus, chapter 15. Tanakh Talk every Sunday. We're now doing it on Sunday. Controversial issues. There's Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Israel Time, 2 Q&As. Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Conversion classes. Anyone interested in any of this, find me. I can't say find me on Facebook because kind of been banned a little bit here, at least the next 30 days. You can find me beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. Send me a text there or send me an email. RabbiChaimKoffman@gmail.com. RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.